Hi, welcome to Matt's Garage. Congratulations, you want to restore a car. Okay, let's just say you've done the basics. You've got a garage, you've got tools, you've got a car, and you got a plan and a budget. We never talk about budget, but it's very important, all right? You're gonna spend 20, 25, 30 grand on a restoration, okay? It's just how the stuff adds up, all right? And don't kid yourself when you start. But let's say you have started and your soon-to-be ex-wife has even bought into this crazy idea of yours. At some point, you're gonna have to address the frame. This video goes into the details of restoring a frame. I'm gonna take you stage by stage with what I'm doing with this 73 Bronco frame, but it's the same for any car basically. Check the straightness, all right? Run a tape from corner to corner, run from the other corner to corner, make sure it's straight. If it's not straight, you're gonna wanna either get a frame straightener to do it, to straighten it. There's specialty shops in different areas that do it, or try to source yourself a good frame or buy a new frame if it's available for your particular make or model. And the next thing you want to do is repair the damaged areas. In my case, it's going to be the body mounts, and let's start with that, and then we'll go into the cleanup and prepping and welding and closing holes and all that other stuff. So first, the body mounts. The first few I did by pie cutting and hogging them out, and it was a huge pain, so I figured I got to use a hole saw for this. But of course, a hole saw needs a centering pin, so what I do is I stack in 2 washers, and I'll use that to center my hole saw. Now those will obviously move around, so you need to weld the bigger washer into place. Obviously, if you have one washer that happens to have the right outside diameter and the right inside diameter for your pilot drill, you don't need to do this. I didn't, so I stacked them. Then I measured to make sure the center of the smaller washer was centered in the scribe marks. You can see my Sharpie marks on the outside. That's where I plan on cutting my 2 3/4 inch hole to fit my 3-inch washer. Burn that in, a little zappity zap, zapparoo. Spray it down with some cutting oil, and then the trick with these things is go slow. You don't want to use a high RPM on this. You'll burn up your hole saw. I ended up using this on 4 body mounts, and it made it through all 4. It's definitely getting a little slow on the last one. But it took me about 20 minutes of drilling per hole, 15? I don't know. It was a long time. And then, boop, pops right out. Good to go. And I got an open hole there to clean it up. So that was me hogging out the hole, and then I laid a washer, which I bought at the local hardware store, on top of it, okay? And then I welded all around it. Now I made a couple passes, all right? And in this case, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna finish dressing these welds with a flat wheel, all right? I used a grinder to knock them down roughly, but you don't wanna use a grinder to do all your final shaping. You wanna save that for a flap wheel. What is a flap wheel? It's a grinder attachment, all right? An angle grinder. I actually just bought a new DeWalt angle grinder, a small one. Let's see if I can get in, you can close it. See that? It's a cup wire brush. This is great for dressing the frame, all right? And stripping off paint, stripping off rust, and getting the stuff down. You're also gonna need some safety gear. Let me show you that. Full face protection. You're gonna be doing a lot of grinding, a lot of cutting, all right? And there's gonna be a lot of dust in the air. So you're also gonna need breathing protection. When you're not using solvents, this is fine. When you are using solvents, you want one of these with an organic filter, all right? It filters out VOCs, volatile organic compounds. Scotch-Brite pads, I buy these in bulk, cut them to size. You know, this is already cut. You're gonna need some kind of a solvent to clean up the frame. Acetone works, mineral spirits work. Kerosene works. Now the problem with these are they are flammable, all right? So don't keep them in near sources near sparks. You want to keep your trash can away from where you're grinding, and you want to take normal precautions. You're also probably going to need a welder and a welding helmet, and a variety of other cutting tools, deburring tools. You're going to need wire brushes. You're going to need possibly an air chisel to chisel off, or a needler scaler to chisel off the old undercoating. Some people burn it off with propane. I think it's messy and it stinks. I don't really like that. You can use a heat gun, but the undercoating on this frame is pretty old and crusty, so I'm gonna knock it off first with a air chisel or a razor blade, and then brush it off with Scotch-Brite, and then clean it up with a solvent. So let's do that now. The first tool you can use here is a razor blade mounted wand here, right? And with this, you simply get in and you scrape it off. Now, you go through a lot of blades and it's pretty labor intensive. It's tough on the hands. So that's one way to get it off. I've never done this before, so let's see if it works. That is hitting way too hard. I'll be honest, I didn't really like that air chisel too much. A scaler might work better. So now I'm gonna hit it up with a brush, try to clean off what I couldn't get with the this I did last night, but clean that off there. A lot of guys use acetone. I'm just gonna use a purple power type thing. It's not as effective as acetone, but it does the job for the video. Again, can use a stronger solvent, but make sure you wear a respirator. Grab a paper towel, wipe the surface clean. Okay, this part here that I just did, this is ready for oil, grease remover, and paint, right? Now I didn't get everything because I'm videoing and trying to do this, but those are the steps you want to take to do this. Now, when I did the air gun, the reason I don't like the air chisel is it left a bunch of little marks on my frame. I have to smooth all those out in primer and sand it. I also wanted to show you the effect of the knotted wire brush. It really cleans up the metal nicely. You're not trying to get rid of all those stains. Those will not come out. You can etch this with Osfo, but it does make a nice prepped surface. You could paint over this. I would probably etch over it because it is pretty smooth. You want to give it some bite, but you can see the left is done. Your frame will undoubtedly have a bunch of holes in it. Some of them have purpose and some of them don't. Some of them you'll see thread in, okay, and you want to make sure you don't fill those, obviously. And then other holes will have a purpose of, like, that's where a vent from a differential breather went, or maybe something was routed through it. So you want to understand the purpose of the hole before you fill it, and then take a Sharpie, mark around it the ones you want to keep, and then fill the ones you don't. Like, this is where the bumper bolts go through. This is obviously where the body mount sits, but there's no purpose for this hole here, so I could fill it. How do you fill a hole in a frame? Let me show you. Let's say that's the hole in your frame, okay? And you need to fill it. What you do is you get your welder nice and hot and a lot of wire speed, and you zap into that corner. Bzz, and you'll see the pool and the glow, and then it'll cool. Bzz, and then you build up like a crescent moon until the hole is filled, and then you ground it smooth. That's the hard way. The easier way is get yourself a bunch of bar stock or bolts that kind of match most of the holes in your frame. Doesn't have to be exact. You got to make sure you take off all the galvanizing, your zinc coating, or whatever that's on anything, because that stuff's toxic, all right? You don't want to weld on that stuff. I use a sandblaster, but you can use a flap wheel or a wire brush or whatever, okay? And then you can cut slices of this off with a bandsaw, okay? Not with your fingers, you know, use like something to hold it, like a vice grip. And then use a magnet to hold it in place. Now with that, just even though there's a lot of room there, oops, it's not focusing on focus. Even with a lot of room there, just having that piece in there will make it so much easier to fill. I mean, it's like unbelievably easier to fill a hole if you have anything filling it. So scrap chunks of metal, cut off pieces of bolt, whatever you got, use a magnet to hold in the hole, zap it in, pull the magnet off, don't weld your magnet on, and then fill weld around it. I'm gonna try to do one each way, all right? I need a jacket. First, with no filler. Are you freaking kidding me? It didn't even record? Oh, crap. Okay, well, I built that with a bridge weld. I'm gonna do it on this other one. Like it never even happened. See? Hole's filled. Now, let's do it the easy way. Now, I did gouge that, so now I gotta go in and throw some welds on that. Might as well do that now. See how crappy that weld is? I forgot to have my gas on, all right? Watch the difference. See that? Nice shiny weld. Stupid rookie error. Hole's gone. Little bonus, I finished welding all the holes on the frame. You can see these are all welded in now. So all the way up and down the frame rail, any hole I didn't need is welded in. Even the top ones. So all you need to do now is grind them down. And I'll have a totally clean frame rail on the outside. Couple things to keep in mind. First of all, these are cosmetic, all right? These are not structural things. I'm just doing this so the frame looks better. So it is kind of optional. It does clean up the overall look of the frame though, so it's my preference. Now, on the Bronco frame, there's some oblong holes all along the frame rails. You can close those holes too, but keep in mind, if you're gonna do an interior frame coating, all right, you're gonna need access points. So don't close up all the holes. Make sure you have enough holes so that you can run your extended nozzle, you know, like the Eastwood frame coating nozzle, and cover the whole frame length. And you can pretty much close up all the other holes. Not sure why they're there from the factory, but I think it looks cleaner without the holes. Keep in mind, you're also going to need to run brake lines, fuel lines, things like that. I prefer to actually, I'm not going to do a fully like chalk line stock on the brake lines and fuel lines. So what I'd rather do is actually clean up the frame the way I want and then drill my holes in perfect lines and tap them for a nicer fuel and brake line holder. What else can I tell you? I mean, it's just, my hair is fantastic. It's just going to be a lot of work, all right? So that's what I'm going to be doing for a little while. And then I'm going to dismantle the suspension off of the frame. As you can see, my frame's been sandblasted, but they didn't do like the greatest job on all the parts because they didn't fully lift the body off, and that's why I had to do some of that undercoating removal. If you get your frame properly sandblasted, you won't have to worry about that. It'll be great and it'll be ready for epoxy right away. Now, I got my frame and my body sandblasted over a week ago. And so far, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. They've just been sitting in my garage. Only the slightest signs of a faint rusting. I mean, and that's if I'm really trying to look. So a lot of guys are always in a panic. You gotta get it epoxy coated as soon as you get it sandblasted. That's not entirely true, all right? And if you're really worried about it, you can spray it down with OSFO. It'll convert any rust to a non-reactive layer, and that'll be good for weeks, all right? I'm no expert, all right? So if you do this in your $1 million car paint peels, you're listening to a guy on YouTube, all right? But using my mind and using my experience, I think you'll be okay. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.